Anyway, we're going to jump in tonight. If you came and you didn't know what's going on tonight, we're going to be looking at Israel tonight. And I've got a couple of people that are not here, and they went with us. So I am going to actually read from Casey McGee and some of his slides. Before I even start this, I got to throw out, so just leave that, go ahead and put that first one up there. That's a picture that Casey took. He starts taking these pictures and he's posting them on our WhatsApp. And the guy who owns the company, the travel company that we're going through, Philip's house, he texted me and he goes, I got to hire this guy to take pictures for my company. He's incredible. And one of the things that Philip didn't know that I actually found out on this trip is Casey worked for National Geographic. You see it now, right? So he was back in the 80s and 90s, he went to Morocco and traveled the world with National Geographic, and he was one of their top photographers in Morocco, had a whole magazine dedicated to his work. And so anyway, some of these pictures that you'll see that he took, they're a little better than some of our other ones that I took, right? They just kind of stand out a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to read Casey what he had to say about our trip. It says, from ancient architecture to living stones. I had planned to go to Israel back in May of 2021 while at a semester at Charis Bible College. A lady that I'd never met informed me that she had just made a down payment to go. I was completely blown away by her boldness and gracious gift. I was in a state of complete disbelief and thankful very much for her while I was trying to figure out how this is going to happen and how I was going to pull off the trip. I didn't have to worry long because COVID came along and hit the world and hit Israel extremely hard. My trip was canceled before it even got a good start. I was one of the first to sign up for this trip, and again, didn't know how I was going to come up with the money to go at all. And I was asked over and over by many different people, aren't you afraid with all that's going on over there in Israel? Which I would reply, I can't think of a better place to be if something bad happens. He said that to multiple people that I knew of, so. I've also been asked many times what was the most significant thing about this trip. It's very difficult for me to answer this as I enjoyed all of it, some more than others, but nonetheless. I asked Pastor Rob early about being baptized while in Israel, in the same place where John had baptized Jesus, and without hesitation, he said, I think we can probably do that. And so it was to be. I and several others were baptized in the Jordan River, something extremely special to me. Thank you, Pastor Rob. To walk in the footsteps of Jesus, to walk through the shepherd's field, to reflect in the gardens, to look out upon the Sea of Galilee where Jesus sat praying before feeding the 5,000, to sit at the tomb, to read the verse where Mary comes to find the empty tomb, to understand that Golgotha, place of the skull, was actually a busy intersection in town where passerbyers could stop and stare at Christ hanging from the cross for the payment of our sins. The Bible came to life in a vivid, colorful way as we traveled. There were so many sorrowful tears shed that were nearly instantly replaced with tears of joy, gratitude, and thankfulness. There wasn't a single day during the trip that I didn't cry. Perhaps the most difficult day or most painful day, and the day I believe I felt the hearts of the people of Israel, was when we visited the Nova Music Festival site, where so many young people, vibrant souls, were massacred in some of the most horrific ways of dying. I felt their sadness, I felt the anger, and the resolution to see justice for what had been done to their friends and comrades. The area was covered with poster pictures, all of who had died. I slowly walked backwards towards the bus in front of me where two soldiers, one maybe older than me and a younger one, sitting on a couple of large rocks talking to each other. With one glance, it was easy to see their anguish and pure exhaustion that the war had done to them. I walked up to them. I wanted to talk to them, but just stood shaking, trying to swallow while my tears ran down my face. The only thing I managed to say was, I'm so sorry. They both looked at me with a look of true appreciation, the type you can feel, and the older of the two said, thank you for your support, and I made my way to the bus. Me and 17 others saw the ancient architecture, and it was amazing. We also met living stones of Israel, the people of Israel, God's people. I've already forgotten the names of many of them, but there are 17 other stones, those that I went and sat with from Amazing Grace. I'm grateful for the time I spent with each of you, the meals we shared, the friendship we made halfway around the world. So that's Casey McGahee, our local National Geographic guy right there. I love it. So anyway, you get to see some of his pictures that were up there. Pretty phenomenal. He had more than I was able to put up on the screen. Kristen, come on up. Kristen, I love it. While she's coming up here, Kristen has been our world traveler with Amazing Grace this last year. She came to Mexico with us back in July, and then she also came to Israel, and it's been a delight. I've ran through airports with her, which has been fun. And anyway, share your story. Share what you'd like to share tonight.
Okay. It's better if I just answer questions or something. I saw Kristen T sit up here and read her stuff, and I was like, okay, I can do that. I can just sit up here and read. Had such a great time in Israel. Let me look at my stuff. I wrote down a few things because whenever somebody asks, I'm just like, it was amazing. It was just amazing. And then Pastor Rob was like, you're going to have to say your favorite part. And I was like, I don't know. There's so many favorite parts. And so when you first asked me that, I was like floating in the Dead Sea. Like, that was just weird to me. I'm a swimmer, and you just didn't even have to swim. You just lay there. And yeah, it was really cool. But then thinking more about it, I thought the Garden of Gethsemane, I really enjoyed that. I didn't realize that there was actually maybe two. No, not the garden. The Garden of Gethsemane where we prayed.
Correct. The
Yes.
Garden Tomb, is that what you're thinking?
Yes,
Okay.
the garden too. Garden of Gethsemane was really cool too. Got to pray. You heard other people talk about that as well. The Garden Tomb is, so that's, just correct me if I'm wrong. But
No, you did great.
The way I'm understanding is there's different places. Like one place, first of all, when you get there, you're just tons of information, loaded on. And I'm an auditory learner, so I'm just trying to focus and draw it all in. And our tour guide was very full of information and
Knowledgeable. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yep.
yes, and drill sergeant-ly I guess. Chop chop. I was kind of at the end sometimes. It'd be like, chop, chop. I'm like, okay. But I appreciated it for sure. We had our little whispers, and so you got to hear about everything. And but it was kind of like information. I'm like, okay, now what was that one called? I don't know. So just trying to get it straight. I love that she would say things, and then it's just like, oh, that's in the Bible. That's in the Bible. And so last week when everybody said Bible comes to life, it's true. And I match it with my trips to Washington, D.C., reading all the history books. And then you get there and it's just like, oh, the Smithsonian is not just one big place. It's a whole bunch of different museums. And it's the same way in Israel. It's like, oh, wow. Just real life, walking where Jesus walked and where he taught, and climbing where he climbed, praying where he prayed. So anyways, back to the Garden Tomb. We went to one. I thought that was the tomb. And we walked up, and then you walk down, and then they're like, this is the rock it was on, and then you knelt down and touch a little stone, and then it's just like, okay. And then we walked through, and they're like, churches built up around all the things. And then a little bit later, I don't think it was the same day. It was another day. And we walked in, and they're like, no, this is the Garden Tomb. And I'm like, wait, didn't we just see this? And so it's different, they don't, sometimes, traditional.
I'll help explain it. So,
Okay,
so you
good.
go. Yeah, you're doing great.
Yes. So, but the Garden Tomb, oh my gosh, that one hit me very hard. I love that. The place of the skull, it like is an actual rock. It looks like a skull, and got to go up, learn about that, and then the tomb. And they're like, it's right outside the city, but it's a group. I think they're from another country. They had an accent. Christian group.
Scottish, yep.
Yes, and they just welcome you, and then they're telling you all about this. And what hit me so hard is all of the different groups, and they were from different countries. Like they're worshiping in other languages just as we walk around. And that just like, whoa, floored me. It's just awe. And I didn't really realize. Okay, so when I first started, I was like, had a different idea. I didn't think that Israel was so modern, or it's kind of like Alaska. I thought, igloos, it's igloos. And when you get there, it's not igloos, it's like people are riding their bikes and stuff. So, just saying, truth be told. And then in Israel, it's like you learn it's like the top 5 tech countries in the world, and very like you can't even say ruins because it's not like ruins, it's like history all over. They're even excavating while we're there. And so anyways, I don't know where I was going with that, but we were back at the garden too, and we did communion there. I was shocked because I guess I heard the statistic that from the United States, there's only 11% of Christians in the world. Only 11% comes from the U.S. And then the rest is all around the world. And so when we were walking around and hearing all of the singing and worshiping and stuff, it's like, it just hits you like, wow, all these people are coming to worship. And it's not like, even though Christian nation, it's like only 11% out of everyone. And in Jerusalem, or in Israel, when you're looking at Jewish people, most of them are not believers. I mean, they're not Messianic Jews. They don't believe in Jesus. And I know God's going to take that scales away, and they're going to get it sometime. But it was just eye-opening to see other people from other countries coming and praising and worshiping God. And quickly to wrap, so I'm not like taking forever. Another part of that was when we went to Magdala, and where Mary Magdalene was from, and we got to go to a newer site, and this Father Kelly.
Father
Kelly.
Yep.
He's like a Catholic priest, I think, but he's like an evangelist. In my mind, a Catholic priest is not an evangelist, but every person that he came in contact with, he did not miss an opportunity to share the gospel with. Every person, like he was taking us around and showing us things, but like a couple, a Jewish couple, I think Jewish, came and he was like, well, I need you to be my bodyguard, and so he just gathered them right in and had the whole conversation with them. And it was with every person that he came in contact with. Someone would be walking out and he'd be like, hello, he'd just make a connection. And he did a lot of cool things there. They had some paintings. I saw one of them up there, but with Jesus's hand, like helping the sick, daughter, the one that I think had died, and lifting her up. And so it was really cool. We had members of our group put their hand in Jesus and take pictures of that. It was just beautiful. And then we went to another room, and they had Jesus helping Peter out of the water after he had just walked on the water, and had our people go up and put their hand in Jesus's hand. And it was just like, wow, Jesus does that for us. We can put our hand in his hand, and he heals us and takes us out of the water when we start to look at other problems instead of looking at Jesus. And one thing that hit me with him was he was talking, and we all got to sit around and talk, and he was like, how many people was Jesus prejudiced against? And of course, all right away, we're all like, no one. Like, he got everybody in, you know? And then his next comment was, how many people are his apostles prejudiced against? I mean, who? And it was like, what? Because so many times, I know here in the United States, it's like, well, you don't baptize right, or you go to the wrong church, you do this, you do that, you know, ooh, you're not to the right place, or it's weird. That's not how God sees it. God sees us all as his family, his kids, and just like him touching each person, and then all the nations coming to worship God. I mean, that's what it's about, all around the nation. So anyways, blah, blah, blah.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate it. I'll take your mic from you there. Thank you. No, it's awesome. You can see we had a lot of fun with Kristen, right? Kristen is one of those people. One of the things, and I was talking with Doug as well, and so this is something that comes up when you go on a trip to Israel. There's traditional sites, and then there's more modern sites. What happens is in the 300s, you know, there's been several wars that have been fought. The traditional places, they don't know where they are. So now all of a sudden in the 300s, the church comes in and they go, I think this was the site, and they build a big church there. So for 1700 years, they're like, this is the place where Jesus died. And then the 20th century comes along, and you've got these archaeologists that come and they're looking at maps and they're studying, and then they start digging and they're like, actually, it's like 3 miles away from there, and it's over in this spot. So you got these old traditional spots that have these churches that are 1,700 years old, and they've been celebrating, this is the spot where Jesus died. This is where his tomb was. This is what happened here. And archaeologists are coming along now, and they're proving the Bible is true, but they're just kind of maybe saying the place where you thought it was, I'm not sure that's the place anymore, and this place makes way more sense. And so there was some confusion a lot of times that was like, hey, this is where Jesus died. Next 2 days later, this is where Jesus died. And people are like, wait, what? I don't understand. So that's kind of what she was talking about. But Angela, come on up, Angela. So Angela, the thing I have to say about Angela is at the very beginning, she signs up, and then all of a sudden, okay, I'll let you talk. Angela's amazing. She was so excited to go on this trip, and so excited that we had more people because she went. I'll just say that. So Angela, I'm so glad you're here. Tell us what you got.
So I'm going to read a little bit, and then I'm just going to hit some bullet points. So Israel was never a bucket list item for me. I assumed it was for pastors or biblical scholars. So when I heard Pastor Rob was going over a year ago, I thought it was cool and considered it as maybe a far-off bucket list item at that point. And when he got back, he took a couple of Wednesday nights to share pictures and his experience. And I remember texting my husband one of those nights saying, Pastor Rob's going to be going back, and we'll be taking a group from our church, and I would love that. And I didn't know if I was, quote unquote, good enough or ready to go. So I prayed about it over the next month. And I've never felt such a strong pull in my whole life over anything. The dates were announced on a Wednesday night, and my vacation days at work were approved the next morning. And I booked my spot a week later. And I'm not one to do things alone, let alone a big trip like that. But I was going to do it anyway. 5 days later, my sister surprised me and told me that she booked her spot as well. And 11 days after that, my mother-in-law told me she booked her spot. And 13 days after that, I found out that her sister booked a spot as well. So 4 of us. So when I say I wasn't sure if I was good enough or ready to go, it's because that I had never read the whole Bible. And I felt that you needed to know more about where you were going and what you were going to see. I'm not really a reader, so the only stories from the Bible that I'd really heard were from classes or small groups, devotionals, sermons. But I made the decision that when I was going to start considering going, that I was going to read the Bible completely. I didn't want to go and not understand the things and the places that I would see. So I ended up reading it twice last year. Thank the Lord for audiobooks and podcasts. I started reading it again with a different version again this year. So you said that once you go there, you see things in a different way, and it really is true. I fully understand that. I've been to the places that I read about. I've stood in those places. I've experienced the climate. I understand the culture more, and it really just changes your whole perspective on everything. So a couple of the highlights for me. One thing that surprised me was we're going in the beginning of winter, and there was heat. I'm not a heat person. It was in the 80s most of the time, 90s some of the time. So, climbing up these really dead Idaho-looking mountains or hills, and it's hot. That kind of surprised me. So it just kind of puts into perspective, Jesus and the disciples are walking through this all the time, and they're in, probably leather sandals, and think about it in the summertime. Kind of opened your eyes up to what they would have seen. One of my favorite things there was just seeing the people. Everywhere you went, you had the families that were walking around together. They were always together. And the kids, everybody you went by would greet you and say hello and ask where you were from. And the smiles were just contagious. It's not something you see here. And so to feel so warmly greeted was just amazing. It really, truly felt like home because of how you were treated. When Pastor Rob originally had asked what our favorite things were, which obviously no one can answer that, the only thing that I kept going back to was just water, just in general. I'm not a water person. I'm not a swimmer. I don't go to the ocean. I would rather go to the mountains. But anything that had to do with water was just amazing to me. So we had, I say Sea of Galilee, it's the Lake of Galilee, but the Dead Sea, the Jordan River, just all the little streams and brooks that you see, there's just a peace and a calm. And obviously the Bible talks about the living water and talks about water in so many different aspects, and you feel the presence. And the last few days when we were there, we were at a place right by the Sea of Galilee, and the sunsets, good timing. The sunrises there were amazing. Pictures don't do it justice. It was gorgeous. It was phenomenal. Another thing that I loved there were the olive trees. And the only way I can explain it was it looked like big sagebrush with really twisted roots. I don't know. They were just gorgeous, old. And so I took tons of olive trees pictures. I was one of the ones who got baptized there. I was baptized when I was a little kid. So, I'm like, I don't need to do it again. And I was thinking about it, like, why not? In a place like that, why not? At least to say you have the experience. It was more than experience, though. And it's hard to explain, but it was amazing. And it meant a lot to me. One of the other places I was excited to see when we found out we were going was to the Elah Valley. Just thinking, I'm going to go see where David killed Goliath. Okay, cool. Good story. See a little hill. It'll be neat. I think it was just the fact that we talked about it and told stories about it and then wandered. I think that was one of the most important places that I went, even though it's just a field off the side of a highway. But it was really neat to experience and to see. When I was going through some pictures, unfortunately, I took over 1,200 pictures. So to reel it back to 10, it was really hard to do. So I was going through pictures about a week ago, and my 10-year-old daughter was sitting next to me, and so she's asking what some of the things are, and I'm telling her stories. I'm like, this is where this happened, and this is where this happened. And it was amazing because some of these stories, to be able to share with her, her eyes would light up. We just talked about that in church or at a small group, and she would look at me, and her eyes were filled with tears because she could see it was real, even though she wasn't physically there. So it was just a really cool experience to be able to share that with her. Another random thing, you bring back and you see things from a different perspective. Christmas Eve service that we attended, my sister was there with me, and we went to my parents' church, we went to the point where we're lighting the candles and we sing Silent Night. And we look at each other and we both just lost it. because when we were in Israel, we were in a cave, like the cave Jesus was born in, and we all sang Silent Night together. And so it's just bringing back those memories and remembering that it's just such a special time, things that you're not going to forget. And my new family that I have, I mean, we spent almost 2 weeks together, every single meal, everything we went and did, and it was the best experience of my life.
Thank you. I love it. Wow. Good job. I'm crying, like, thinking about being in that cave, honestly. And it was one of those moments. I don't know how to explain it except the Holy Spirit showed up in that cave. I don't know if that's the normal experience in that cave, but it was for us. It was incredible. And my thing was, to everybody that went, I don't want to just go see old places. I want to go meet Jesus in Israel. And I think we experienced that as a group. I think we really did. So thank you so much. So while she is sitting down, we're going to actually watch a video from her sister. So go ahead and play Mickey's video.
When I first booked to join AGF in Israel last year, I was so excited. This was my #1 bucket list trip, the Holy Land. I could not miss the opportunity. And to go with my sister, even better. I immediately began praying, planning, and packing. Fast forward a couple months and my world was upended. My church of 18 years had turned their back on me and told me that I was no longer allowed to help as a youth leader. I was devastated. We looked for another church, but the hurt was so great that I second-guessed everything that every church we attended was doing. My heart began to harden. I was still excited to go to Israel, but the enemy began whispering if it was the right thing. We finally ended up finding a smaller startup church, and things just clicked, and we had finally felt like we found a home. Things were starting to look better, and I was getting ready to get on a plane. I was excited to walk where Jesus walked and see the places that I've only read about. I was ready for an encounter with God, but what I experienced far exceeded my expectations. In elementary school, I did a report on the Dome of the Rock, but experiencing it on the Temple Mount was the best first day I could ever have imagined. Sitting on the Temple Mount, looking at the dome, I could feel Jesus in that place, and I just knew that he would stand there again when he returns. What a moment for me. The next huge moment for me was the Garden of Gethsemane. Imagine walking in the last place that Jesus was free. Not only did I get to walk in that garden, but I got to sit under and against an olive tree. I took off my shoes and I put my feet in the same dirt that Jesus might have walked on. And I prayed like Jesus was sitting right there next to me. It was so incredibly powerful. During the entire trip, Pastor Rob kept talking about restoration. You ever have one of those Sundays where you're sitting in church and it feels like the pastor knows what's going on in your life and is preaching directly to you? Well, for me, that's what God was doing through Pastor Rob the entire 2 weeks that we were in Israel. I had been holding onto my church hurt and not allowing myself to move forward. And while we were in Israel, I was called to release it. I had planned before we went that I wanted to be baptized in the Jordan River if we had the opportunity. I was baptized when I was young, but there's been so much that's happened in my life. I wanted a chance to renew my faith and just go through that experience as an adult. Instead, God had other plans for me in the river. It was time for me to let go of the hurt and to truly be restored. Not only did I renew my faith, but I left it all in the river. All the church hurt was washed away. I came out of the water and I can't put into words how I felt. Peace, hope, love, restoration. I came home committed to living in my baptism, remembering what Jesus did for me in the river, and in every step that I took in Israel, how he walked with me. I'm forever changed, and my family, my friends, my church, and my coworkers have all seen it. I pray I get the opportunity to go back again someday, and I thank everyone at AGF and my Israel family for letting me join you and just be part of you. it really made the experience that much better.
Yes. I love it. I am so glad Angela went because 20-something% of the other people that were on the trip were there, including Mickey. Mickey, I think she lives in Nampa, the Nampa area, right? So she sent us down a video. But Gail, come on up here. Gail is so excited to share tonight. You should see the look on her face that she's giving me right now. But Gail is such a blast to be with. I'm telling you. I'm serious. Like my conversations with Gail were pretty shallow, to be honest with you, just on a normal basis of just saying hi in church and how are you, and then getting to hang together in Israel was such a blast. So, Gail, tell us a little bit about the trip.
Well, I had always wanted to go to Israel. My mom went years ago with her church, and I had always thought, oh, that would be so cool. But I never had the chance or the money. But my parents both passed away in the last several years, and I got some money, so I was able to do it. And it was great. It was, like everybody has said, it's unbelievable when you're walking where Jesus walked and seeing the places that you've heard about from Bible stories, even as a little kid, or just from reading the Bible. I felt like like Angela, I probably should have followed her lead and read the whole Bible through several times before we went, but coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? But anyway, it was fun. It was more than I thought it would be. And it's great having a whole new 18-piece family. We all got to know each other pretty well, I think. And there was a picture up there of me standing by a camel. That one. I don't know, can you... I don't think I look really thrilled, and I wasn't. This man came... I was one of the first people back to the bus when we were in Jericho, and this man came up with his camel, and he wanted me to ride it, and I'm like, no. I'm old, I'm frail, I'm not going to ride your camel. And so then he got him next to me, and he wanted somebody to take a picture, so I handed Casey my phone. Poor Casey, this is not his best work. And the guy kept pulling me toward the camel and pushing the camel toward me, and I felt like I was covered in camel slobber. And it was not very comfortable. The camel didn't smell very good. So, yeah, that was a weird...
Highlight of her stories, right?
Yeah, real highlight. I told my daughter that I met a guy that tried to snuggle me, and I met the camel.
Yeah.
And
his name was
like,
Sam.
What? Yeah, Sam was the camel's name. I have no idea the man's name. But yeah. See, you can, there wasn't a lot of love there. Anyway.
That is awesome.
That was one thing it's a memory for sure. I don't know if it's my favorite thing that happened, but it's a memory.
It's a memory for all of us.
Well, one of my favorite places we visited was the Pools of Bethesda. Mm-hmm. And that was another place. I'd read the story and I'd heard the story, but when we were there, it was a lot bigger than I imagined. In my mind, it was, little pools. It was huge. And I could just picture, when Rob asked me one time my favorite thing, that was what I told him. And I told him it's because I could imagine the man being there and not being able to get help to get in the pool. And that's all, nobody was there to help him, and people would push him out of the way because he couldn't walk. And so that just hit me because I just, in my mind, I could see what he had gone through and, and to be able to get up and walk. So that was a big one for me. I mean, the Garden of Gethsemane, yes, and one of the other things was the Nova site. Being here in the States, we heard about Hamas attacking this festival, and it was just another news story. It didn't really hit me until we went there, and I did some reading afterwards about it and watched some YouTube videos that people that had been there and hidden in a bomb shelter. And one girl told the story that she was in this bomb shelter with her boyfriend, and they did make it out, but she laid for 4 hours or 5 hours with dead bodies on top of her. And they were pretending to be dead, so that because the Hamas terrorists, they called them, were coming in and shooting. And they would come in and shoot a bunch of people and then walk away. Then they would come back later and shoot some more. And they threw grenades in, and she said she didn't, the weight on her kept getting heavier, and she realized that when they threw grenades in, people exploded. It was just horrific. And then to go there and you see the families of a lot of these, I'll call them kids because they were, most of them were in their early 20s, some were older, but the families put up these flags or monument type with a picture, and they had a little story, and I read a lot of them, and it was another day of crying. I cried a lot in Israel. I left a lot of tears there. But I was reading something, 411 people were killed that day. And then after we went there and saw all this, we drove down the road, and there were cars that had been destroyed in the attack, and it was a humongous pile of cars, just bombed out, rusty shells of cars. And just to see that in person, it just amazed me, because on the news, it's just another story. But when you go there and you see this, it's just, and through all this, our tour guide, who was sort of, like Kristen said, she did sometimes get kind of snippy with us. And in a loving way. Well, and the big thing she kept telling us when we would go to different places is, nobody be a lone ranger. Stick together. Well, one day, we all gathered back I think we were back at the bus, and we didn't see Valerie. And we're like, where's Valerie? And so when she came back, I think it was
No Lone Rangers.
Calvin counted to 3, and we all yelled, "No Lone Rangers."
That's right.
I don't think she liked that too much, but she was good about it. But anyway, there's just so many little things like that. And I, seeing the humor in things is kind of me, but.
Yeah.
You got that?
I definitely got that on our trip. I love this lady right here. She's amazing. Well, and there was a space for us. We're actually not going back to the Nova Festival site on this next trip, but I really felt like we needed to go on this last trip. It was something I just felt like the Holy Spirit had asked me to do, that we were going to go in solidarity for the people, and we were going to see what happened there. And I think it was really special for our group. I think there was something about that. And then that evening, we were at a Messianic church with people that, you know, they're believers in Jesus that are also Jewish. And it was an interesting day. It was one of those days that there was some heaviness to it. And then there was also just getting to worship with a group of people that are singing in Hebrew, and you don't know what they're saying, but it was so special.
Words would have been in English.
Wouldn't that have been great?
Hebrew, so we'd know.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Exactly. Gail, it was a pleasure having you on our trip. Thank you so much. Jean and Lisa, actually, let's do one of you at a time. Jean, come on up. Jean, it's great to have you on this trip too, man. This is one of those guys. He hiked with us. He and Lisa both, you guys were hikers, man. No, I wasn't saying old jokes at all. I'm saying this guy was awesome. He was a trooper. So jump in, my friend.
Thank you. I'll pay you later. When we found out that Rob and Robert were going to go 2 days earlier, Lisa goes, "We should do that. We should get there and get all rested up and everything, and we'll just stay at the beach on the Mediterranean." I'm like, yes. So we did. We had a hotel that was like a block and a half from the beach in the old north part of Tel Aviv, and it was just really neat there. It was a neat old city, and the first time we walked down to the beach, you walk across the road, you walk down through this little park. And in this park, there's this section where there's like exercise equipment and stuff. And there's this gal kicking a body bag. I mean, like planting in your face high on this body, like whap, you know. I'm like, the thing that really impressed me was the tenacity and the toughness and the grit in the Hebrew people. That we saw that just over and over. In my mouth. Okay. So being there and being able to be down on the beach and see the people and, you know, on the beach and jogging and riding their bicycles, and everybody was like super healthy. It was, you know, these are people who are born into a country that has been attacked and oppressed, and just from the get-go, from the very first time they're, you know, so their culture is, you turn 18, you go into the military, and you get trained, and then you're a reservist for the rest of your life. And I was really impressed by that. Anyway, we get to, all right, I'll stick it right here, okay? Turn me down. We get to Jerusalem, and the first day there, we go out on the Temple Mount. And I love the presence of God. I love the anointing. I can just, you know, come on. You'd feel him, right? So our tour guide mentions this big, wide open area north of the Dome of the Rock is where they think maybe the actual temple was, and that the Holy of Holies was over there. So I boogied right over there because I'm going to feel the anointing, right? And so I get over there, and I'm like, nothing. I'm like, gee, well, what's up with this, Lord? Jesus says, my anointing rests now on living stones. And I knew that, but it totally shifted my perspective, because we went to site after site after site where 1,700 years ago they built these humongous churches, and some of them were really, you know, nice and formal, and some of them were kind of glitzy and tinny, and I had a recalibration where I was able to look past the stuff that was built to the hearts of the people that built it. And they did the best they could with the culture they were in to honor God. And so they wanted to honor God. They built a church so they could go and they could worship there, right? And to me, it was just like irritating. I can't go in there without my hat off, and I can't wear my shorts. And, you know, there's all this, the external requirements to impose some standard of holiness on you before you went into this place. And having that recalibration that first morning really helped me to see past that, to recognize the hearts of the people. So I was able to, be in a better position to honor them. And it was really neat. So one of the first things we did on the first day was we went to the Friends of Zion Museum, where it showcased different people who down through history had blessed the nation of Israel and the people. And it was really an emotional spot, because these guys had gave their lives to do things for Israel. It was pretty wonderful. I wasn't real happy about Bethlehem. Going into the West Bank, Palestine, that whole area, it was just didn't feel good. It wasn't scary, it wasn't yucky, it wasn't awful. It was just there's something wrong here. And after seeing some of the stuff, we had our little armed guard that followed us around and made sure we were all okay. And it was really interesting, the different in culture. I mean, when you left Israel and you went into Palestine, there was a shift, and you felt it. So that was, it's I don't want to spend any money here. They had some really neat olive wood spoons, and so I want one of those. I never found another one because they didn't make them anywhere except Palestine. I'm I got home, I ordered some from Tunisia. So anyway, going to the Elah Valley on our way to the Nova site and walking around in the field where the David and Goliath thing happened, right? Looking for a smooth stone to bring home with me. And getting out of Jerusalem and out of the bus and walking around in a field, we saw a cat print about that wide. I mean, that was a pretty healthy bobcat. Too big for a kitty, okay? This was not a domestic, here, kitty, kitty kind of thing, right? This was a bobcat. And it was fun to be in there and, imagining, an army on that hill and an army over there on that hill. And David comes down and picks up some rocks and takes the dude out. And it was really cool. It was one of those God moments where you got to be in the Word, in the Bible. Mm-hmm. Then we went to the Nova site, and I wish there had been some, pictures and slides of that up. I hope we see some of that tonight, because it was definitely really an emotional spot to be in a place where so many people were killed so needlessly. And again, it brought home that thing where Israel has been hated just for existing. They didn't do anything to anybody around them. God gave them the land. They came back. They lived in the land, and they've been hated for it forever. Recently, reading through the Bible again, reading the story of Abraham, I wish that dude could have kept his pants on. I mean, the whole Middle East story is a family history about all of the people who did not do the right thing in God and how it all turned out. And it's just pretty incredible. Anyway, we get to the Nova site. We saw that. It's really emotional. We leave there. We go back up to the Bet Hillel congregation worship thing. And it was awesome. They're singing in Hebrew and Russian because there's so many Russian Jews, and anyway, they've moved in there, Ukrainian and Russian, and they've come to Israel, and they're in this congregation that blesses and ministers to them. They're singing in Hebrew and Russian, back and forth, and the anointing in that place was so thick. It was really wonderful. So. Back in Jerusalem, the Garden Tomb, the skull, hill of the skull, the rock, whatever you want to call it. That was awesome. Another thing, there's probably a picture that you've seen up there of the cave, Qumran Cave. How many hundred years before Christ was that? Does anybody know?
Probably 600 to 1,000.
Okay,
a lot, quite a few years.
So for over 2,000 years, God kept those scrolls in those jars in that cave. The shepherds were running up and down those things just forever. and never bothered to get in there and take a look at it until it was time. And God's sovereignty over the affairs of man, it was like, yep, he can bring things to light, he can hide things, he can change her history. And it was just, one of those things was like, yeah, God's still on the throne. He's really taking care of stuff, he's doing the stuff. This is actually our schedule. We didn't know what the heck it meant when we got there. It's like, oh, okay. And then we went there and we went, oh, okay, that's where I was. I love climbing Mount Arbel. That slide right there. My family got radically blessed while we were there. One of the neat things was I invited my daughter along, my grown daughter, and she said, yeah, this gal goes places all over the world. And so it was really cool that she was able to come with us, and we had a lot of fun and kind of a reconnection kind of time. But my family got radically blessed while we were there, and I really enjoyed that. One of the other things, when we went north to Banias, and so we were like, Syria's on this side of the creek, and Lebanon's on that side of the creek. It felt like we're right next to the northernmost part of Israel. And, 2 years ago, that had been evacuated because they were shelling it from these countries were, bombing the place. We're driving down the road, and you can see old concrete gun emplacements and bunkers and kind of stuff off in the field here and there, and the barbed wire fence and old rocky ground, and then there's this little danger minefield sign on the fence. I'm like,
That's something you see every day.
Yeah, you drive down River Road, you don't see any minefields around here. And so it's another one of those reminders that this is a people who live with a constant awareness of the fact that they could be shelled or missiles or terrorist attacks any moment. And so they have to be ready. We had a lot of fun there. We walked down the creek, and that was fun. I did all the walk kind of stuff I could because I'm old. I need to keep my legs moving. So I did all the walks, climbed up Mount Arbel, head up the wall. That was fun.
So good.
And that picture, you standing on the top of the mountain, we're climbing up the mountain, and I'm behind Lisa, and Chrissy's behind me. And Lisa goes, help her, she's afraid of heights. And I turn around, I'm like, oh no. Bummer, because she's, moving up this mountain, right? And that picture of her standing on the top.
She conquered it. She did it.
I helped her through a couple little spots, but she did it, right?
Yeah.
And when I found out she'd had 2 knee replacements and she was scared of heights, I'm like,
Rock star. Absolutely.
yeah. You ran at your Goliath.
She did. She conquered it.
Yeah, good job.
Love it.
Anyway, we're up there, and after we do the creek thing and all that, we go to lunch. And while we're there, my daughter's trying to figure out how to work the kiosk or whatever it is so you can order some food. And this Israeli soldier steps over and helps her. The guy looked like he could have stepped off of the, right downtown, big burly dude. And so I stepped over and I said, how's it going? He goes, depends on the day. Perfect English, no accent. And so I talked to him. I said, how was today, or how's it going? And we started talking with him a little bit. He was one of the soldiers that was dispatched to fight Hamas after they came into the country. Our tour guide told us a story of a family that came to America, and their 7-year-old daughter, as soon as they got where they were going to be, said, where's the safe room? Because in Israel, every hotel has a safe room, a big steel door that goes down into a bomb shelter. That's what they live in. We don't know how good we have it.
Yeah. Appreciate it, Gene. Thank you. Yeah, Gene. Awesome. Lisa. One of the things I experienced going to Israel the first time, I went to see a bunch of old rocks, to be honest with you. That's what I was there for. I came back with this passion to take people to go see living stones. And to hear those stories blesses my heart, because I think all of us had some interactions like that just we walked away loving the people of Israel. So, Lisa,
Absolutely.
what does your shirt say?
This is wild. Oh, that was my second thing I was
Okay, I'll let you talk.
I feel so much like Kristen because she said she's an audio learner. I'm a visual learner, which I'm going to really need my slides because those are my notes. But there was so much interesting things. And then Valerie's excited and she would tell us stuff. And then Rob was excited and he would tell us some more stuff. And then sometimes Phil came in and he would tell us some more stuff because he was so excited. And I was just like, and I really
Fire hose of information, right?
it was a fire hose of information, and it really started sinking in. I think after I got home, I think I was just so trying to not be chopped and be in the right place at the right time and not miss the bus sometimes that I didn't even realize how much was really just changing me. And I had never wanted to go to Israel. Why would I want to go to the Middle East? That sounds very scary. And Rob, it was you. I mean, he was glowing, lights were shining out of his face. I thought, wow. I mean, it was like Moses,
I'll pay you later. Holy cow, that's hilarious.
And I said, well, I guess we're going. And yeah, God always provides. So this slide, though, is from the city of, and I thought, disclaimer, I might not have any of my facts right. I am telling you what happened in my soul and my spirit.
That's all we need to know.
So Rob can
You're good. You're
adjust
doing great.
anything, but I'm pretty sure I did try to remember. So I think this is the city of David, and those are the southern steps that David had from, his palace up to the temple. And I just kept thinking of all the Psalms of Ascents and all the worship that's happened on these steps and for, thousands of people and I don't know how many years, a lot of years. And just knowing I think kind of like what Kristen said about we're just such a little handful of Christians and they're all over the world. And of course they didn't even know about Christ. I mean, they sort of knew about Christ, that he was coming, but he hadn't been born on earth yet. And so that was just a huge thing. And then also in Jerusalem, we went to the Friends of Zion, and my shirt from the Friends of Zion, and it says,
I see it now. Here I am.
yes, it says, in English, it's, my hair, this is Hebrew, and it says, here I am, because they read the other way.
I would read from right
They
to left.
read this way, okay. They read that way. But it just made me think, because at that museum, they talked about all the different people through history who had helped Jewish people, and they recognized that. Sorry, I'll keep it up here. That's how God has kept them alive through other people, right? Okay, so I'm going to try to get back on track here. So that was huge to me, and I loved that I got to wear this shirt. And here am I. I'm sorry, but I'm going to think of that Frozen song, "To Do the Next Right Thing." That's what it reminded me. I just need to do the next right thing because I was so afraid. I've been so afraid so much of my life. And I've just shrunk my life down to doing things I thought I could do and not believing in the power of God to make that difference. And this picture, Jean had this picture as well. I didn't realize coordination. But the caves you saw that they found those in, those had the word of God in them. And I was just thinking there's the worship and then the word of God. And I love to read. I love the word of God. I've read through the Bible lots of times. I've been in so many Bible studies. couldn't even count them. And so when I saw, even though that's kind of, those aren't the real ones. I'm sure those are replicas.
Yeah.
But when I saw those, it was like the way God saved that, you know? I mean, it was like the way that God I don't know. It's like he really has a plan, and they have specific parts of it that will all work together and come together. But anyway, so that was a huge thing for me. And then what's the next picture? Oh, and then that one. I think if you were here last week, you've seen that, and I think even earlier today. That was in Getty.
Mm-hmm. I'm Getty. Yeah.
And David was there.
Yep. Doing great.
Hiding from Saul.
That's
and
the
other
spot.
things.
Yep. Exactly.
And so that was huge to me because I love David, because David was a complete screw up. I mean, he did horrible things that we all know about, adultery and murdering the husband of, but you know what else he did that really hit me? Is he didn't really talk to his kids very much because some bad things happened, and how much God loved him anyway. And I think probably like most parents, especially if you have adult children, they're like, oh my God, how much I did wrong and how many times I've apologized to my kids for the things I did wrong. Right. And yet God loved David so much. And so it just meant a lot to me. So, and that is the sunrise at Sea of Galilee, and where we met Father Kelly, who is a living stone. And I love the way you talked about Father Kelly. I won't repeat a lot of that, but all the same things. The
Beautiful
way he
man.
loved people. Oh my gosh. I grew up practicing Catholic, and so I get so excited when I meet a priest that has Jesus shining out of him. It just
he's legit.
It feels redeeming to me.
Yeah, he's a legit
And
guy.
and I see that sunrise almost every day because he does a Facebook
Live or whatever.
Reel, Facebook Live, and then the reel, you can watch it later. And so I am watching the sunrise at 9 o'clock when I'm getting ready to go to bed, 10 o'clock, whatever it is. And so I'm very glad that I saw all the things I saw. If I went back to Israel, I would spend all my time in the north.
Yeah.
Yep. And so this is at Magdala. That is a first century church that they're excavating there. And that stone in the middle is kind of that part of a pulpit from that time. And I think it was the first time that I was overwhelmed with, there is no way Jesus wasn't here.
Yeah.
Because they're saying maybe it's here, maybe it's here, it's probably here. But it was like, Jesus was definitely there.
Yeah.
And so that was huge. And then this was also in that same area. This is all with Father Kelly's tickets and around all these places. And this is the Dulcin Altum, I think it's called.
Sounds right.
And it's
Latin
it's
for something.
Yeah. So you see the pillars? So that's a circular thing with a dome, and those are all pillars. And each one of those pillars, this is totally to honor the women of the Bible. Mm-hmm. Each one of those pillars is like Joanna or probably
Priscilla and Mary. Yeah.
Just all these women that were pillars when Jesus was on earth and moving around with him with the disciples and the apostles. And like I said, I don't have all my facts straight. But one of the pillars is ladies. one of those pillars is for us.
It's blank. Yeah.
It's for all of us.
It's beautiful.
Here, living for Jesus.
Yeah.
If you could go back just for another second. So, and if you look through that to that arch in the back, that's another chapel, and there's like a boat-shaped altar. And when you look straight through that, it looks like the boat is floating on the Sea of Galilee. So I thought that was really
Very
cute.
cool. Yep.
Okay, now you can move. Thank you. Okay, so when I remember when I'm drawing a blank. Is it Amanda? Amanda. That went with us. That read in the cave in Bethlehem.
Yeah, Amanda Higley.
Okay.
Yep. Got it.
She said that, that was her moment, and she jumped up really fast, and she was going to read the scriptures to us. And so you saw the picture that my husband had. We had already gone up, and we had participated in what Father Kelly was doing as he uses the artwork to just get you closer to Jesus. And he said, is there I think he asked for a woman. Is there a woman here who has somebody who's broken in their lives? And I remember thinking, well, my family got their turn and sort of counting 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, nobody's raising their hand. I'm like, I'm going. And so he's the one that took that picture. He took a whole bunch of pictures. He told me, how to position my finger so that it would look like I was touching the fringe of Jesus' garment, like the woman with the issue of blood. And so I got a replica of that picture, which many of us did, and it's up on my mantle. And I'm not even sure why I'm telling you guys this, but I lost my son, which is one of the reasons I forgot the name of the place.
The Nova site.
Nova site.
Got it.
So the Nova site was really, because there were so many 20-year-olds that just were going to have some fun, and they were killed, and he was in a boating accident. He died when he was 24. And it was really hard on my daughter to lose her brother. And so I made a little teddy. I do not sew. I do not do crafts more than once while I'm at the ladies group, and that's it. And I sewed together one of his old shirts, and then took an old pillowcase and sewed it together. Added it to make his little nose and stuff, and put a little scarf around his neck. And anyway, so I'm praying over that, and I'm going to give it to her, because she's not a believer. And right now it's up by that picture. And I'm just believing, Paul had the kerchiefs and stuff, the prayer cloths, and then they took them, and I'm just believing that the Lord is going to get some of that anointing into her house.
I love it.
Hopefully on her pillow and into her head and heart. So anyway, so that was huge. Thank you for letting me do that. And I think do I have any more pictures? Oh, this is so exciting. I stole this picture off the internet because we had all those pictures of climbing Mount Arbel, but we were on it. So that's Mount Arbel. That is what Kristen climbed up. Do you see
Come
that?
on, Kristen, let's go.
That cliff is what we went up. And then when we got on the top, that's where the Great Commission,
Yep.
right? That's
Great
where
Commission,
the
yep.
Great Commission was given. And I'm like, we're up there, and I'm like, Jesus was talking to all of us. You know what I mean? He's got eternal words coming out. And so I felt like we were commissioned again when we were up there. Okay, you can do the last one. And then I was like everybody else. I was so excited to get out and hike and be around the waterfalls, and all that was wonderful. And I don't even remember what happened at that waterfall, but it was lovely, wasn't it?
It was beautiful. Yep.
I don't know why we went there, but it was lovely. And this just blew me away. So we were on our way to this when we stopped at the waterfall, right? And that, you guys, is in Tel Dan, So that's where the tribe of Dan was, right?
Yep.
And that is a gate, that the gates were all big guarded places. And that was from Abraham's time. I'm not lying, right?
You're not lying.
And I was looking back and on a timeline thing, because I was trying to figure out what else was going on in the, on Earth when Abraham was running around. Well, not running, well,
Yeah, he was probably running sometimes.
And they think the covenant that Abraham made with God was actually before Stonehenge went up.
Yeah.
So it is
It's one of the oldest things known on the planet right there.
that was amazing.
So impressive.
So.
Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate it.